Democrats are aiming to pass the infrastructure and social spending bills by the end of October. But continued clashes between moderates and progressives on the Democratic side of the aisle are threatening to delay President Biden's economic agenda even further. Joining me now to weigh in on this, Georgia Republican Congressman Drew Ferguson. He's the Chief Deputy Whip of the House Republican Conference and a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. So do Republicans have any role to play in this, in Nancy Pelosi's Congress and in a Democratic-led Senate?
Well, John, we do have an important role to play, and we're telling the American people what's in this bill. And every time we expose more and more of what's in this bill, Americans push back against it. And what we're seeing as a result of the Biden administration is chaos in the administration and chaos in the House of Representatives. Moderates and progressives can't agree. Republicans stand committed to making sure that America remains the most competitive place in the world to do business. And what the Democrats are proposing right now puts everybody first but America.
So this is a logjam, really, on Capitol Hill. Would you call that a good thing?
Well, right now, we don't see anything good coming from the Democrats. We've seen this tremendous amount of inflation. American families are hurting. The cost of energy is going through the roof, and the Biden administration is begging OPEC and Russia to supply fuel for the U.S. and the rest of the world. This is wrong, and we can't stand for it. And I'll tell you this: what we're seeing right now with the social spending and the proposals coming out of the White House. This is not good for America. It will sideline a generation of workers and make America less competitive.
We're going to get to some of the details in just a moment, but Senator Ron Johnson was on Mornings with Maria this morning, and here's what he said about the prospects of getting some of these bills through.
What are your thoughts in terms of a vote on October 31?
Well, I hope for Democrat gridlock. You know, oftentimes in Washington, D.C., gridlock is the better alternative, but when it's Democrat gridlock, pray for it. I hope that's exactly what happens.
In other words, I guess none of these bills get passed.
You know, I think there's a real chance that the October 31st deadline that Pelosi said was certain is no longer certain. And what we're seeing is that as moderates and progressives within their party continue to fight, we see the chances of this big bill going down. And we think that that's good for America. This is not the kind of policy that puts American businesses and American workers first. It's the kind of thing that puts us behind our biggest competitor, China, and our adversaries around the world.
One of the things that is buried in one of these 2,400-page bills is a little item that would turn local banks into sort of spying agencies of the IRS. Now, you and other members of the Ways and Means Committee are trying to stop that, but here's what Democratic Representative Khanna says about the details of that little item. Listen.
$10,000, but it's not going to look at, okay, here's what you spent it on, and here was the deposit. It's just going to say, did you make money in the year? And if you made money, pay your tax. Just like banks tell you if you made interest, you have to pay your tax, just like you get a W-2. The idea is just that businesses should pay their tax. And I don't think this is going to surveil or snoop into people's privacy in any way, because banks won't have the ability to go after the individual transactions.
So he says this is not surveillance. It's not snooping into people's privacy. What do you say, Congressman?
With all due respect to Representative Khanna, he could not be more wrong on this issue. Americans do not want the IRS snooping into their bank accounts and spying on them. This is a constitutional issue. The federal government is prohibited by the Fourth Amendment from unreasonable search and seizure. And the federal government cannot look at your private property without a search warrant. This is a constitutional issue. It does not matter if the amount is $1, $600, or $10,000. Americans do not want the IRS snooping into their bank accounts. And here's why. Americans don't trust the IRS, and for good reason. Go back to what Lois Lerner did, where she was targeting certain political groups. Look at the leaking of information to ProPublica. This is an organization that has proven time and again that it can be weaponized against American citizens. This is why Americans are going to stand up and push back hard against this. And it's one of the reasons I dropped a bill on Friday to prohibit Secretary Yellen from implementing these rules. I, along with every Republican member on the Ways and Means Committee and 100 other co-sponsors, stand ready to fight to the end on this. This is unacceptable, and we cannot have this in America.
Before too long, $600 in a bank account isn't going to buy you much of anything if these prices keep going the way we are seeing them go. Take a look at the numbers from just the last year. Fuel oil, basically diesel fuel, but also fuel oil, is up 42.6% over the last year. Gas is up 42.1%. Energy overall, electricity, etc., is up almost 25%. And used cars and trucks, where you used to be able to get a bargain, that's up almost 25%. What's the answer here, Congressman?
Well, the answer is to stop this ridiculous government spending that's driving inflation. Americans know that when Washington spends too much money, that it drives inflation. And for the administration to say that this is transitory inflation, meaning that it will pass, is dead wrong. This is affecting Americans every single day at the grocery store, at the fuel pump, and just as you alluded to earlier in your previous segment, the supply chain issues are real. American families can't get access to the goods that they need. And it begs the question, why are we continuing to import from China when we should be producing these products here in America? Again, there are policies in place that put America last, not first, and that is wrong. If you look at what the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act have done, it has driven the American economy to its highest levels, and we have a tremendous revenue stream coming in. Once again, Washington doesn't have a revenue problem, it has a spending problem. And to suggest that we should spend more of your hard-earned dollars by having the IRS spy on your bank account is flat wrong. We cannot stand for that.
Drew Ferguson, Congressman from Georgia, Republican, thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.